Hi everybody, we're now live again. Well, live, I say we're recording from a very wet and windy Evesham with that storm coming in. Today we're going to be mainly talking about the 750 motor racing series, a little bit about Locost, a little bit about Westfield, because we've actually got a champion with us today, and that's Mike. Say hello, Mike.
Hi, John. Nice to be here.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, Mike, tell us a little bit about your background, because you used to race at Westfield, I believe, in the Locost Championship. But you've got a lot to come on to talk to about the Locost Championship, because you're also quite heavily involved in that, weren't you?
Yeah, that's true. Back in the early 90s, I built a Westfield to race in the Kit Car Championship, which was before Locost was ever thought about. And I raced it from 92 to 2000. And I won the championship 3 times in 4 years.
Wow.
In
Wow.
Different classes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when I stopped racing because I changed jobs, and it was about this time that Locost sort of came on the horizon.
Yeah.
As well as being Kit Car champion, we in the 750 Motor Club, we had a thing called Formula Officials. So it's basically like a driver's rep, and they would meet every month just to thrash out any changes that needed to be made or whatever. And one night at this meeting, Keith Messer, who was the technical guru of 750 Motor Club, said, "I've come across this book about building yourself a sports car for £250.
I can imagine which one you're talking about.
Yeah. And he said the problem with 750 is it's gone away from this idea of people designing and making their own cars.
Yeah, almost. Which can become sort of
what it used to be.
Yeah, can become checkbook racing. Whoever's got the most money is going to win, type thing. Yeah,
exactly. So he said we need to get hold of, make contact with the publishers to get in touch with the author. And I put my hand in my pocket and said,
I know
phone out. I pulled my phone out and I said, "Oh, do you want his number?" "Well, have you got that?" I said, "Well, as well as being a teacher, I'm chief examiner for GCSE motor vehicle studies, and I do the in-service training for the teachers all over the country."
And Ron was a teacher as well. Ron Champion was a teacher as well, wasn't he?
That's right. At the time, he was teaching at Oundle private school, or public school, And I put this meeting on in London, and this guy turned up, and I thought, he looks a bit familiar. And I got him to fill his name in on the attendance sheet, and there it was, Ron Champion. And I said, Are you the Ron Champion that wrote the book about building a car? He looks at me and he said, "Yeah." "Are you the Mike Topp that won the Kit Car Championship last year?" "Yeah." And then I said, "I tell you what, let's start this meeting. Let's get through it, clear all the teachers out of the way, and we can sit down over a coffee this afternoon and sort out
things out." Yeah. So this is basically how Locost got involved in the 750 championship.
Racing It was. Yeah. And then, as I say, at this race tech committee meeting, I gave the phone number to Keith. He phoned Ron. And we set up a meeting for the 3 of us, Ron, myself, and Keith. And we sat down one night and we thrashed out the ideas of regulations, trying to keep it as close to the book as possible, but also taking into account anything that needed to be changed, for safety and so forth for racing.
Yeah. But
And
back in the day, what engines were they using? I would imagine Ford.
it was always the Ford Crossflow with 1300cc.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what the race series is still using to this day.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because it's
but
got a very big following now as well, isn't it?
it has, yes. Um, yeah, I mean, for the first 5 or 6 years, I acted as former official for it, so I had a very close liaison with all the drivers, and sorting out rules, regulations, and like the guys at the 750 directors sort of said, basically, it's your baby. You keep an eye on it, and
Yeah.
you know what you're doing because you're Westfield Racing.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic in the early days. It was a fantastic championship to be racing in. Everybody was really friendly.
Yeah.
If anybody got a little bit a bit overzealous on the track, I'd go over and have a quiet word with them afterwards. And
A friendly word. None of
yeah,
this.
yeah,
None
yeah,
of this penalties and pit stops and God that you get in Formula One just got so boring.
that's right. Yeah,
Again, I mean, Formula One, whoever's got the most money wins, is what I said before. But when you look at some of because the 750 series is now being televised, there's live streams you can look at as well. And when you
yeah,
look at the race, it is so close. It's I'm sure there's spins and people not bashing into each other and this kind of thing. But it's really exciting to watch. Really exciting.
yeah. It certainly is. It got so popular after a few years that they were actually running 3 grids. So
Okay.
so you would do 2 out of the 3, and then that would give you a full grid for a final.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
This is the other thing. The amount of people that are entered into it as well. I mean, some of the race series you get a few, but the low cost you get loads of people. Really
you
exciting.
do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it got so popular that 750 introduced a variation of it with putting Mazda engines into
Okay.
the low cost chassis, and they called it Mazda 7, which had a bit more performance than the 1300 Crossflow,
Yeah.
and
Could they?
that drew a few of the people away.
Yeah.
You know.
I know in some of the races as well, it's like the MK sports cars. They're now entering their Cup 200s, but that's a completely different class, I would imagine, to the original. Has to be.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So did Ron Champion ever enter any of these races, or did he just go along and watch? Or
No, he just went. He came. He had. I think he had 1 or 2 of his pupils raced.
yeah,
But Ron never raced. I can't remember him racing himself.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we know. I mean, that's where the whole Ron Champion thing started. The low cost was in his garage at home, and we've spoken to Ron about it. We did an interview with him, and we also spoke to Matt Reed, whose name you may know, because he's literally, say, just bought. It was about 2 years ago, I think he bought the original Low Cost 001 actually off Ron Champion. So Matt Reed is now what we call a custodian of that car, because there isn't another. There never will be another. It was the original one. When we interviewed Ron at Malvern, he was explaining that his son wanted a 7, and the cost of them were just too much. So Ron was saying he went to one of the car shows and discreetly took a tape measure and measured up all the chassis and got some key measurements, drew it out on his garage floor in chalk, made up a frame, made the car, and off the way. And I think it's still got the original Anglia engine as it was then that they were using. And then he went on to say that a lot of the other boys at the school said, "Oh, we'd like to, we would like one as well." And so we got together with all the parents, and then this is where this whole book thing came from. And I know we made several with all the pupils and so on. Some of them actually made two, and it rapidly took off. And then it was suggested he should write this book about the car and put some plans together. So that's kind of like where it all came from. But it's absolutely brilliant that you obviously got involved quite a lot with Ron and getting it into the 750 Championship.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I went to Handel School a couple of times, in my capacity as chief examiner, to look at some of the students' work and so forth. And when you walked into his workshop, which was it was a very nice big industrial unit, basically. It just looked like you were walking into a race car factory,
Yeah. Brilliant. I think this is because I did O-level engineering when I was at school. Absolutely loved it. We made a little vice, and then we made some other stuff as well, and proper engineering. Lathes, mills. We even did some foundry work as well. We weren't allowed to touch the metal once it got the temperature. You don't get that these days in schools, which I think is really, it's just really lacking. And I don't know. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So yeah.
I got out of teaching 24 years ago. Having done 20, I've done 22 years, I think.
Yeah.
And we were doing that sort of thing, kids were building racing karts, and having inter-school races. We were casting aluminium parts. One of the students even went as far as casting their own hydraulic brake system for the car.
Wow. And I bet he went on to do an engineering job as well, or something along those lines.
Well, actually, he went on to do a product design. So, he got a BA product design. But there were great times, and the thing is, the kids behaved themselves because they were enjoying what they were doing. And then when I got out of teaching, as I say, turn of the millennium, a few years afterwards, all the machines that were in my workshops were taken out and sold.
Well, that's just such a shame. It really is.
Yeah. And now, sorry, I was just going to say, and now we've got to a stage where the country's short of craftsmen or craftspeople.
Yeah. It is a dying art, and it was the same with my two boys when we because I've ridden bikes all my life. I didn't pass my car test till I was 24, so it was always going to be a bike engine car. So I've ended up with an MK with an R1 bike engine in it. I got that for. I spent nearly a year and a half looking for it until one came up in the budget that we'd got. But yeah, any maintenance work that needed doing, I get them to do it, and it's got them really interested in car maintenance, that kind of thing, which they didn't learn at school. Because there is no engineering now in any of the schools. But yeah, they absolutely loved it. And then my eldest, when he went off to college and then university, he actually became the go-to person if anybody has a problem with the car. He would change your brake pads, he would change your discs and things like that. And that's only come about because we owned a kit car, and I was always the one that I'd tell him what we need to do, show him roughly how to do it, just check what he's doing. I was the one just making bacon sandwiches and coffee while he did all the dirty work and got all his hands greasy and left him to it. But now but they both love it now. He's got on to build he bought it wasn't knackered, but it was an old Ford Transit van, ex company ex-company van that used to deliver, I don't know, mechanical tools and all that kind of thing, you know, cement mixers and stuff like that. So it was a bit beaten up, but he's now gone on to convert that into a camper van. So he's got a bed in it, he's got a fridge, he's got a toilet, he's got a shower. And I don't think he would have done that. I don't think he would have done that unless he'd got experience with spanners and things like that. So, yeah, absolutely great times.
Yeah. I mean, last autumn, I was out with my wife clay pigeon shooting at a local shooting ground, and a guy came up and was talking to her, and I'd walked off talking to somebody else, and he came over and he said, "Do you remember me?" And I said, "No, give me a clue." He told me his name, and I thought, vaguely familiar. Anyway, he said, "I was in the school kart club that we used to run after school."
Well,
and he said, and I always had a rule that if any of the members got in trouble in or outside school, they're out.
Yes.
Bit of blackmail, really. And he said, "Do you know, when I was in the kart club, I was knocking around with mates who were really starting to get into a lot of trouble."
Yeah.
He said, and a good proportion of them have spent time in prison.
Oh, yeah.
He says, "No, I haven't. And I put it all down to you keeping me on the straight and narrow, when if I hadn't been in the kart club, I'd have sort of got taken under their wing and off.
Drifted off. This is what comes back. This is what comes back to what you said earlier. You know, when you've got them in school, if you can keep them motivated and keep them focused on what they're doing, and they know they're going to get an outcome, you know, they're going to get a car from it or a go-kart or whatever.
Yeah,
they're going to pay. They're going to pay attention to what you say. Yeah. Whereas these days,
exactly.
This is just a generalisation. A lot of people won't agree with it. This is just my view. Is a lot of the people today that are coming up, the younger people, just haven't got the attention span, and they want it now.
No.
And they wouldn't have a clue about how to build anything.
No.
So you've stopped racing now. Have you any thoughts of building another Westfield or
no? Well, not really, because having done it once, got the T-shirt, got the trophies.
Well, you won the championship 3 times.
I've done it. But interestingly, when I retired from work, because after I finished teaching, after running my own race business for 5 years and then selling it, I ended up getting headhunted and became general manager of a GT team.
Okay.
Racing in British GT and Blank Pan in Europe, as well as Formula Renault. So I went from being a school teacher to like engineer, team manager, and then, as I say, eventually general manager until I retired.
This race team. Success
from the race team.
In that?
It was,
successful in that.
We won races in Europe. We came runner-up in British GT. We came runner-up in there was the British-based endurance.
Not BRDC or whatever it was. No, that's a different series, isn't it?
Yeah. But we were, up there at the sharp end. But it was incredibly stressful.
Really?
So, really, well, you can imagine. We've got a team doing British GT. We've got a team of That's two Ferraris in British GT, two Ferraris in Europe,
Yeah.
a single car Lamborghini Super Trofeo in their one make championship in Europe, and
Right.
four Formula Renaults for rental, rent a driver type thing.
Okay. Yeah.
And although they had each had a team manager and engineers, it was my job to oversee all of those teams to balance it up and where the trucks were and when they went. And
because you're obviously race prepping these as well, and from one race to the next, and suspension setups of different tracks, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's right. And I mean, with one of the Ferraris that we had, one model, the 430 Scuderia, it was GT3 car, and it had a particularly weak gearbox. So British GT was a two-day event. So you'd practice and qualify on Saturday and race on Sunday. So on Saturday night, after qualifying had finished, we'd take the gearbox out and put another gearbox in.
A brand new gearbox. Wow.
Yeah. Well, that was a 5-hour job.
Yeah.
When, on top of everything else that you were doing.
Yeah.
So, So anyway, I finished all that when I retired, and I went back to my original motorsport, love of karting. And now
you're back in karting.
Yeah, karts. But it's classic and historic karts. I restore them for people.
Okay, I wish I'd known about that, because I've just sold an old kart that I had, which had a really 115cc engine. It had been bored out from 100cc. I can't remember the name off the top of my head now. It'll come to me. But yeah. We didn't really do any karting or really get involved in it. But this kart came up for sale fairly cheap. I thought, I'll have that. It's another thing for me two boys just to have a little mess around with and have a play.
Yeah.
TK Extreme was the engine that was in it.
TKM.
TKM, but it was the Extreme.
Yeah,
so been
the Extreme, out. Which is a 115, as you said.
And I remember, there's still quite a few out there, but not many. I took the head off and looked at it, and it's never been rebored either. So it's not had a lot of use. It's still on the original piston and ring size. So I should have kept that, to be honest. But anyway, I haven't.
So that's so I don't have the time and space to build a Locost or a Westfield or anything like that. The garage I built the Westfield in is now full of lathe and milling machine and so forth.
So you're quite well. You obviously, with what you used to do, you're quite handy mechanically and engineering shop wise and making parts and that kind of thing. Yeah. So and again, that's another dying art. You don't see. We know quite a few people. We've been doing interviews with them, and they give us a quick tour of their workshop. They've got everything in there. They can make anything, and they can just think up something. Oh, I need this, or I need this bracket, or I need this. We did an interview with somebody that it was Chris Hollier, who's restoring an Avon Rescue that's been sat for 24 years. So he's recommissioned all that. It hadn't even been fully built, but he was. We did a quick video with him. He's got his own powder coating setup as well. Not huge parts, just little small parts that you can get. And he's just used a standard kitchen oven to bake them. And you think I'd have never thought of that, but when you watch it, it looks so. When I say it looks simple. There's probably a knack to it, but
I've got a similar setup. Several years I go to the Race Retro show at Stoneleigh, and there's a guy demonstrating these, and I'm thinking they're really Mickey Mouse. They can't be any good. I'm not even going to waste my time watching. And then one day I was waiting for a friend, so I stood there and I watched him, and I thought that looks quite good. That So I bought a kit, but then instead of using the kitchen oven type of thing, I had a brainwave. I used, the halogen ovens that they sell. It's like a glass
Oh,
dish,
yeah.
and
I
you
know the
put
ones you
and
mean. Yeah,
the heating elements in the top, and
yeah,
it glows
yeah,
orange. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I bought one of those cheap and put a couple of rods across hangers, and I use that. It's got a
Brilliant.
temperature setting. And it operates it very, very quickly. It gets up to
Yeah.
temperature very quickly.
And it actually looks well. Apart from the baking bit, it actually looks quicker and easier than spray painting. And I'm okay with spray painting, but I'll get away with it. But yeah, you need to get a really professional job on spray painting. You've got to know what you're doing. I'm all right. I can get away with a finish that looks okay. It's not going to be. It's never going to be top notch because I'm not a professional painter. But with powder coat, it kind of like does it all for you. I think
It does, yeah. As long as you've got a clean surface with a bit of a key on it, to bite, for the powder to bite. And of course, it's a lot harder wearing than paint.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah.
So what are your plans with karting then? Have you won any championships in that yet? You must be quite handy as a kart driver, I would have thought.
Well, I did before I got into cars. Before I raced the Westfield, I raced karts, and I won the Rissington Kart Club Britain class championship for the year, and the Midlands championship for that class. And then I just, as my friend who was a kart dealer described me, he said, if you look at a bottle of full fat milk, you've got the milk and you've got a little bit of cream on the top.
At the top, yeah.
And you are just on that borderline between the milk and the cream.
And the cream.
on a good day, you're in the cream. In the not so good day, you're in the milk. And I thought,
drop down a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask a question. How big is your trophy cabinet? It must be quite big.
I haven't got a trophy cabinet, but looking up, there's quite a few up there, small ones, and the big ones are in the back bedroom, and there's a couple of boxes in the loft.
Wow. Yeah. I won nothing in motor racing. Well, I have not really entered anything, and I'm rubbish anyway. Yeah. I did run Santa Pod, the quarter mile, and that was a brilliant.
Yeah.
I'd recommend that to anybody. Everyone says driving in a straight line is boring, but there is a real science behind it and a real knack behind it. You've got to get your launch right. You've got to get your 0 to 60 foot is where you win those races. And then grit down the track, and I had an absolutely brilliant time. The marshals at Santa Pod, I mean, I'm sure they're the same at all racing circuits these days, but the marshals at Santa Pod, it's my first time. They knew it was my first time because they know when they see a new face. They offered so much advice, do this and drop your tire pressures down to this and blah blah blah. And that they always said, for your first few runs, take it easy. I remember I went out my first run. I didn't know what I was doing. I never even knew it was a rubber track. So I went out on my first run with cold tires, and with a bit of bike edge, it virtually just wheel span for virtually the whole of the quarter mile. But the thing is, it kept going straight, so I was happy with that. And then when the tires warmed up a bit, it wasn't spinning as much. But such a brilliant laugh! I'd recommend it to anybody. Completely different to circuit racing and karting. Yeah,
it is. And of course, driving race cars with bike engines, it's so different.
Yes.
Different technique to, a car engine.
Absolutely, no torque. There's absolutely no real flywheel to speak of. So you haven't got that inertia. You've no real torque. You've got to keep it in the rev band or the power band, and you need to check on your engine where that peak power is. Ours revs right the way up to 13,750, but peak power comes in, I think, about 12. So
Yeah,
if you don't change up before about 12, there's no real point taking it up to 13,750 because the power drops off anyway.
yeah, yeah.
Type thing. So yeah, I mean, as I say, I've always ridden bikes. My boys drive bikes, or have done. They're not now. They're at university. So yeah, we kind of like used to bike engines and power bands and that kind of thing, and doing various things to make them go quicker as well. which is what all our car boys, all car boys do. You know, how can I get a bit more power out of
Yeah,
it? How can
yeah,
I? You've done it. I'm sure you're
yeah.
laughing, but you've done that as well, haven't you?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, after I'd finished racing, in the early days of Locost, when one or two companies were starting to build the chassis commercially,
Yeah.
there was a kit car racer friend of mine, Ian Gray, who started building low-cost frames under the name Stuart Taylor
I knew.
Motorsport.
Yeah, I know the name, and I know the company. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he did probably the first Loco blade. So it's a Locost with a 5-blade engine.
That's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, with the CBR
Yeah,
blade engine. Yeah.
yeah. And he said to me, if I enter a car at Silverstone at the Peterborough Motor Club race meeting, will you race it for me? Yeah, all
Right.
right then. Well, I've never driven it before.
Yeah.
Have
you
when
never
I
driven
sat it,
bike? Never driven bike
no,
engines, or no?
no. So it was a case of getting the car just before qualifying, and there was a bit of a groan of the rubber bushes because they seemed a bit tight.
Yeah.
And I said, we're going to have to slacken these off a bit before the race. Anyway, go out, blah, blah, blah. And I'm racing against, there's a couple of Mallet, you know, the Mallet Clubman cars, front engined,
Yeah.
slick tyres. I'm on road tyres, although soft road tyres.
Yeah.
There's like Triumph 2000 TR6 I think it was,
Yeah.
on slicks, and there's a real mix match of things. And I don't know, I qualified mid-grid sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I can remember saying to him, what are we going to do about starting here? What's the maximum revs on this? And he said, I don't know, 12, 13, something like that. And I thought, oh, okay. With the Westfield, it was like 8,000 max, and I'd 6,000, I'd let the clutch out.
Yeah.
Okay, so working that through, we'd go, let's get it to about 9.5 and let the clutch out.
And then launch it. Yeah.
And I could not get my breath. I went, this was from the old pit start line, you know, at Silverstone, up against the wall. And I'm sort of going past these cars as if they're standing still. And I'm thinking, and it's just boom, 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 you know, through the gears.
Yeah, the gear changes. Yeah, constant.
Yeah. And anyway, it gets about part way through the race, and I overcook it and I spin. So I get going again. And I got to get past the more cars. And I think I ended up the first road tired car in the race, and all we got was a blade, you know, 5-blade engine. It was just it didn't convince me to go bike engine car racing. I didn't particularly like it. But
Yeah.
it was a very interesting experience.
It is definitely, bike engines. And this is, I see a lot on a lot of the forums. People say, it's my first kit car. Should I go car engine or bike engine? I always say, go car engine, unless you're really into your bikes and know what you're doing. I mean, the weight saving is incredible. Ours was a Ford 2-litre Pinto engine, swapped for the R1 bike engine. That saved us 90 kilos, which is the same as
it's a person, isn't it?
It's exactly the same as looking at a passenger around. And then of course, pros and cons. As I say, really bad torque, and you've got to get the right. You'll end up swapping the rear diff as well for one that's suited to a bike engine, and then you drive it differently, as you say, because you've got to keep it up in the rev band, and it's not everyone's cup of tea. I get that. It is ours. It is ours. As I say, we've always had bikes, but love ours. Wouldn't go back to a car engine kit car.
No. Yeah.
Right.
So
we've been on for over half an hour now. Shall we call that a wrap? Call that a wrap?
Yeah. If you're happy with what we've covered.
Yeah, brilliant.
John.
Give a wave to Ron Champion, who I know will be watching this as well. Hi, Ron.
Hi, Ron. Long time no see. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, hopefully catch up soon. All right.
Yeah.
Brilliant talk to you. We'll have to catch up with you again and tell us more of your racing stories and so on. But at the moment, just say goodbye. Say goodbye, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, John. Bye, everybody.
Yeah, be seeing you.